And so we're kind of looking for good humans. They need to be ambitious. They want to do something meaningful. They want to leave a bunch of cracks in the universe when they're done, but they can't be assholes. So I borrowed that one from Lars Dahlgaard for my work Success Factors, and we had when I first entered to interview there, that there was a no wall kind of rules, and one of them is like, you can have an asshole, just don't be one. And I thought that's pretty funny, and that brings humor, and it kind of communicates the point.
Welcome to today's episode where we dive into the world of digital transformation with Alex Shevelenko, founder and CEO of Relayto. Alex's company is revolutionizing how businesses communicate by transforming static PDFs and PowerPoints into dynamic, interactive experiences that truly engage audiences. From his days as a management consultant at top-tier firms to building a pioneering startup, Alex brings unique insights into the challenges of conveying complex ideas in our digital age. In this conversation, we'll explore his entrepreneurial journey, the art of building and scaling a startup team, and how Relayto is helping companies break free from the limitations of traditional document sharing. Let's jump into this fascinating discussion about innovation, leadership, and the future of business communication.
Alex, thanks so much for joining me on Scale Like a CEO. Just to get us started, if you wouldn't mind, give us a 90-second intro to you and your business.
You bet. So my background is a Gordon undergrad, Stanford MBA that thought he was really smart and was going to conquer the world with his ideas and consulting and helping grow pioneering SaaS companies, software as a service companies. And it turned out that my ideas weren't lending as well as I thought they were, or I wasn't as smart as I thought I was. And one of the culprits that I came across on that journey is that all the big, important, complex ideas get stuck into PowerPoints and then shaved off as PDFs and then shared either in kind of website with a bunch of download PDF links or zip folders or file sharing folders. That was not getting the message across. So that's the idea behind Relayto AI. We take important ideas that are packaged in these approved formats and turn them into all singing, all dancing, interactive experiences that actually connect to the humans that are supposed to engage with these ideas, help them get the most value from it, and get the sales if you're driving revenue, get the customers, and beyond.
So, Alex, what makes you unique in the way that you're helping your clients?
So what makes us fundamentally unique is that when you go in the storytelling mode and you're trying to say, hey, we have a new format to engage with your ideas, you essentially start saying you have to do a lot of change management. You have to throw out the tools that you're already using and use our new and shiny tool like build websites for people that don't normally build websites. And so what we are doing is we are fundamentally saying, hey, you could still use the tools that you're familiar with. So you don't have to worry about that change, but we can transform your PDF into an interactive site. We can transform your PowerPoint into a nonlinear journey that is living and is not just a file that gets shuffled in the details. So we allow people to have what they're comfortable with and at the same time reach new heights in terms of how they engage with their audience.
That's great. So I'd love to hear a little bit about, pivot a little bit and think about early days of the business and you're starting to grow. What are some of the challenges you encountered as you pivoted from co-founder to really building and hiring in the business?
Well, we went through a number of challenges. So one, I think we tended to be scrappy. We had agency heritage, so there was sort of a bottom line impact on how much we could bootstrap the business. And so we tended to give a shot to people that maybe didn't have the previous background in the startup world like I did or my co-founder. And sometimes it worked and sometimes it didn't. And the lesson from that is that we needed to test whether it's going to work more deliberately if we were taking these chances. And so we productized that over time. We created a program for interns, which we called Internpreneur. And some of those interns joined us as full-time team members, and they didn't have the background, and we took a bet on them. But it wasn't a consistent program until we had a testing period, and we kind of were weeding out who's going to waste a lot of time or who's going to go and try to figure out stuff on their own and then be successful in a startup environment.
I really like that for a way to build your talent pipeline is those types of internship programs where you can, for lack of better terms, try it before you buy it, right? We can try out folks and see how they're doing and then bring them into the organization and roles that we can already see that they would thrive in. At what point did you decide it was time to start hiring? Like, how did you know we've got enough revenue in the bank that we can start hiring and let's go?
It was a combination that the scrappy approach wasn't meeting our goals. So for example, I tried to become a product designer and UX designer, but there's a limit to what I could do, what my technical co-founder could do. And we tried the interns that were kind of providing some, or kind of junior UX folks that were providing some good feedback. And then we brought on a pro, and we saw the difference. I still think we had kind of a mindset of an arbitrage. We hire and bring on folks that are in emerging economies versus sitting in Palo Alto. But I think in general, it was a failure to reach success around things that were important. And that's what we needed to bring in specialists that could help us.
Yeah, I've heard that similar story a few times around trying to hire maybe inexperienced talent where there are certain very specific skills or talents that you need, and just the night and day difference of when you get that right skilled talent in and how they can thrive. I'm curious.
To build on that journey, like in my previous hat, where, for example, at Success Factors, which was hyper scaling, I think we had a very different dynamic where we really needed to, upskill and bring in new people that were ready for the next phase of hyper scaling growth in the enterprise SaaS business. And that was a very methodical process. And some people, the kind of culture carriers, I put myself in that category. We could have managed to take on new roles, stay in more entrepreneurial roles, move regions, move teams, move functions. But in general, we kind of saw that, in certain areas, you just need to have at least some people who've done this thing before in a similar environment, so they could provide guidance on how you build scalable processes. And so I think it's a little looser in the early stage startups, but you still have that challenge sooner or later.
Yeah, most definitely. So what are some of the key qualities that you're looking for when you're bringing on new folks?
So we are a very, very dual company in terms of, one, you got to dig in and figure out the product. So we're kind of product, we may not be like pure play product led growth, but we are product driven, and you need to be excited about the product and figure out how to use it. So one of the things that we do is we invite people to a trial version of the platform, and we ask them to create something in that product, sometimes even before we talk to them. So that is sort of a way to isolate the BSers from the doers. And are they able to dig into the product? And then obviously, if they dig in, we could see the output. And so in our case, then we can create some sort of transformed site. And sometimes they come in and they have amazing insights on like what worked, what didn't work, how they would think about it. And they basically create an opportunity for themselves if that's what they're doing. Or if we have to pull it out of them, that's another sign that they haven't kind of wrestled. They don't have the entrepreneurial DNA of being in an early stage environment. So the product is really core. I think related to that, and you could sort of see throughout this, is the value of get shit done. So I used to be a management consultant, so I'm particularly sensitive to people who come back with very smart ideas, but can't execute on them because this is almost a skill that you have to untrain from people who were kind of in that background. And I think so just being very pragmatic, practical, kind of thinking and quick wins, well, without forgetting the big picture strategy. And so we could structure more deliberate themes around that. And then lastly, we while we are aggressive, we sort of believe that there is the cultural fit. And so we're kind of looking for good humans. They need to be ambitious. They want to do something meaningful. They want to leave a bunch of cracks in the universe when they're done, but they can't be assholes. So I borrowed that one from Laura Felgard for my work Success Factors, and when I first entered to interview there, that there was a wall kind of rules, and one of them is like, you can have an asshole, just don't be one. And I thought that's pretty funny, and that brings humor, and it kind of communicates the point. And so we have that as kind of as another theme. Like, it's not very politically correct, obviously, and then but we're early stage, and we like to mix it up.
Yeah, I like that. And I also like the, getting people just to get into the tool and explore around and using that as a way to assess, are they interested in getting to know this product? And I would assume it also shows a bit of um curiosity. I think that
Yeah.
to jump into a tool like that with no instruction and to figure something out and build it shows a definite need for curiosity and wanting to grow. So I love that. So as you grew the business, oftentimes founders reach this challenge where things are growing and they need to start delegating, but it's hard to let go of certain tasks or things. Tell me about how you've gone about delegation and kind of making sure that you're not taking on everything yourself.
Always thought about productivity. Like, if you think the CEO is the most valuable seller and the most valuable kind of scarce resource in the company at the early stages, so you kind of want to maximize the CEO activity on things that are value added, while at the same time showing that nothing is beneath anyone in the company, right? So to be sure, at the beginning, I was like Mr. QA, and I was doing demo prep and everything that had to be done. And then I think over time, we definitely migrated to having an EA that's doing some of the scheduling support. We have for some activities on social, we have a wonderful, wonderful team member who enables me to be more at scale. So where I could at least have, if it requires my approval, there's something that I can work with. So it's kind of like reduces friction for communications. We got to a point where the podcast episodes, I just record them and then magic happens. So speaking of podcasts, I don't have to get involved in anything. Kind of we created Alex GPT that creates sort of my voice, and so allows the team to communicate the way that I would. So I think that has been kind of another lever of kind of being seen everywhere, but not at the same time, like allocating time to things that other folks could produce on. And broadly, just bring in senior leaders who are capable of kind of being like CEO. So we're thinking of ourselves as a company of founders. So that's sort of back to this entrepreneur test, or who's like, everybody wants to be kind of a founder. Not everybody can take on the risk maybe all at once, but in terms of mindset, the more you have people that can take holistically control of the problem, the easier it is to delegate to them. And so I don't need to get into the micromanagement mode. And when I do get into micromanagement mode, it's typically whether the task or the process was not really worked out well. And so I need to go back and work out what actually good looks like. And that's probably my fault at delegating something before we knew what success could look like, or give it to a person who's not an expert in the space to figure it out completely on their own. So that's sort of where sometimes I've delegated something and people were more confused with it. And so then I had to go back and partner with them in figuring out what does success look like. And probably the last piece where and I'm still working on is really communicating more explicitly what 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 the delegation process could look like, right? At least in terms of the desired goals and outcomes, if not specifically telling people what to do, because smart, capable people don't want to be told what to do. But like I'm introducing an idea like that, and that I could do better on. I think that's kind of good management hygiene. Sometimes you rush too much and you think you've communicated, but you haven't really. And so we have a team-wide communications where we check in, and like if I drop the ball in communications, I acknowledge it, and people help me say, "Hey, Alex, this is really confusing, and looks like we're going to waste a lot of time trying to do something." And so that's sort of been a learning point, I would say, where I think I delegated too fast without clarity to in some cases. And so I needed to get my own clarity of thinking on whatever is being delegated.
Well, that's great that you're open to that feedback. It's so critical when we're trying to communicate something that we're moving really fast and we think we got the message across. And it's great that the team is willing to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. I need more information.
Well, you
Um,
need to encourage people to make sense. I think we had a few situations where people wasted cycles and came up with something that was sub sub ideal for everyone. And so I'm encouraging everybody to, hey, I'm a human. I screw up. I rushed things. I have typos, which is kind of pretty embarrassing. That cause people to like decipher stuff. So I don't want anybody to be afraid of saying, hey, I didn't really follow what's done there. And so I think sometimes in a rush, I think the delegator could be a problem, even with best intentions, if there is a lack of clarity.
yeah. So, Alex, what does the future look like at Relayto?
We're changing the world of most important ideas, one document, one presentation, one content hub at a time. So typically the AI in the regulated and complex content is more problematic to use than it is in just very simple communications. So we are very deliberate at applying what we call regenerative AI to generate interactive and engaging experiences at scale from approved content. And I think that's a problem that not commonly accepted right now. People are going for the lowest common denominator, which could be my daughter using OpenAI for her homework, and me using the same platform for some executive functions. But in regulated, compliance-heavy sectors, that doesn't work. And so that is the sweet spot that we see. And that's actually a huge opportunity because those sectors are typically late technology adopters, and they have the biggest opportunity with AI to transform how they do things, but they are hindered by the way regulatory content is being handled.
Great. So, Alex, your podcast is called Experience Focused Leaders, right?
Yeah.
Okay, great. And it's available kind of everywhere you can get podcasts.
Everywhere
Right.
you can get podcasts, it's authentic conversations. There's no structure, and we just get great founders, CEOs of publicly listed or unicorn companies, and then thought leaders who've written books on topics like customer experience communications. And we even had a Nobel Peace Prize winner recently.
Incredible. Great. Well, so other than the podcast, then, if folks want to reach out and get in touch with you, what's the best way to do so?
LinkedIn, last name Shevelenko, Shevelenko, Alex. They're the more famous Shevelenko, my brother, who is the chief business officer at Perplexity. But there's not that many Shevelenkos out there. So do connect, follow us, and sign up to Relayto if you are interested in bringing your ideas to life.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Alex.
Thank you. This was great to chat, Justin.